Don't try to take the enemy base until your side is ahead and kills. Don't race for the enemy base in the first few minutes. You won't be able to hold it and will lose tanks. Don't rush for the enemy base until you know where the enemy is concentrated. Advance in small groups of 2 or 3 so an ally can follow up your shot while you are reloading. Every map has routes that opposing forces usually take. Don't ignore all the enemy's attack possibilities and rush off to the same destination with all vehicles, at least until you have a sense of where the enemy is. Before you initiate an attack on an enemy tank, improve your chances by confirming that it is a lower tier or is already damaged. Be aware of artillery, both for your own defense and as a means of attack. If you can light up an enemy and then retreat safely, let artillery take it. If the enemy sees you and backs off, their artillery has also seen you. Move on unless you are behind solid cover.
Let's go.
Play defensive for the first few minutes until you can see what the enemy's doing. Shoot and scoot. Stay alive longer by pulling back behind a building or some other protection, even a dead tank, immediately after firing. Use your tank in the manner intended. Heavy tanks should move toward the enemy's heavies or where they usually appear. If you want to camp away from the battle, try using a tank destroyer instead of a heavy. Your teammates will appreciate that. Medium tanks support the heavies largely by being faster and more maneuverable. Because they have less armor, they should not try to attack heavies alone unless they can hit the rear or side. Light tanks are usually the fastest and fill 2 roles, spotting for others who have bigger guns, and attacking enemy targets from the rear or the side. Light tanks have thin armor and need to keep moving almost constantly to avoid being killed. Tank destroyers. Hiding is the tank destroyer's job. They have less armor and bigger guns, so they look for concealment and wait for opportunities. SPGs, self-propelled guns, or artillery have practically no armor and park as far back on the map as possible, looking for brush and depressions in the terrain that will help hide them. Some artillery pieces, such as the Su-5 or the FV-304, have short range and need to keep repositioning to get close enough to the enemy. Just as heavies are wasted in parked positions well back from where a battle is occurring, tank destroyers and artillery should not try to operate as heavies except in self-defense.
Enemy armor is destroyed.
To win means to stay alive or at least do more damage to the enemy's tanks than the value of your own tank's hit points. You can't play well if you don't understand that simple concept.
Critical hit.
Use the minimap. Glance at it frequently to see where the enemy is and how your own forces are deployed. If you see a problem area, address it. Don't become so focused on one target that you miss what else is occurring. If the enemy gets on your base, watch the countdown to defeat. Remember that it speeds up with each additional enemy on your base, so you have only a short period of time to get them off. Remember also that one hit on an enemy on your base will reset the clock, but the same can happen to you when you are sitting on the enemy's base. Games are often lost by one side forgetting that their clock can be reset by one shot while the enemy's clock continues to run on to a win. The Allies' Su-85B that was going to try to reset the defeat clock has been destroyed. The artillery is too weak to succeed in that. There are too many enemies remaining, 7 versus 2 Allies. And the Allies' heavy DW-2 is on a fruitless mission to capture the enemy base. At the start of a game, it helps to form a defensive line across the map and move forward only as other team members do, covering both flanks. Watch the minimap to see what's happening. Unless you're a light tank that is scouting, getting out well ahead of other team members is only likely to cost the team your tank. Your success with any tank will improve as your crew becomes more experienced and you are able to add skills. More experience means you will hit more of what you aim at.
Let's get this show on the road.
Avoid repeatedly firing from the same position. Your position will become known quickly to the enemy. Keep in mind that when you move or shoot, your tank becomes more visible to the enemy. Go where the biggest battle is, but remain ready to break off to meet some other threat. The Tiger tank hung back instead of joining the battle. It got destroyed without doing any damage.
Enemy armor is damaged. One of our tracks is damaged.
Different tanks have different weaknesses. In all cases, the fronts are the strongest, the backs the weakest. If your shots bounce off a tank, either find another tank to shoot at or shoot at a different part of the same tank. Most of the Allies went south, leaving a weak force to go to the town, where the enemy usually sends its strongest force. Don't park sideways to the enemy while shooting. You make a bigger target, and your side is much weaker than your front. Never show your tank's butt to the enemy. If they come up behind you, try to turn around as quickly as possible.
We
Check your vehicle statistics to see how well your tanks are doing. For example, if you've got over 200 battles with a particular tank that is only getting 44% victories, you might want to consider selling it and concentrating on something that's producing better results. On the other hand, don't get too hung up on statistics. They can be misleading. If you're having fun, keep at it.